Let's do it. Welcome to another episode of Vital Doc Talk. And on today's episode, we have Dr. Hagit with us. Dr. Hagit, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And Dr. Hagit, how do you say your last name? I know it's complicated like mine, and Mokratumian is a lot for people. What about yours?
Okay, right. Berdishevsky.
Berdishevsky. Awesome. And she's joining us from Israel, guys. So she has an office in New York as well, though. She practices in America too. So it's awesome. Why don't we dive into your background and how did you start out? What motivated you to become a doctor? I would love to know.
Oh, well, it's really what motivated me to become first of all, a physical therapist, and then you get a degree as a doctor of physical therapist. Really just working. I was a physical educator and a sports science person. And I realized that, you work with people, but they're doing the wrong way, the wrong squats, wrong abdominal set, hurting themselves. And then I decided to become a physical therapist. And from there, took a special road towards the world of scoliosis and spinal deformity, which is a very unique path.
Interesting. And then, and what's the future look like for you? You think for you in your practice right now? Where are you guys at today, and where do you want to go?
So I think I'm pretty much getting into, due to my age and due to the years that I'm practicing, I pretty much settled myself down as I have dual citizenship, so I'm traveling between Israel and New York City. I have two homes. Yeah. And I really work one-on-one with patients with this, we call it spinal deformity, okay? It's a harsh word, but it's a disorder. Maybe we should call it a disorder. And I'm also teaching. I'm teaching a lot around the world, 6 to 10 day course of this material by the school. I'm representing the BSPTS, the Barcelona Scoliosis Physical Therapy School for scoliosis and spinal disorder or deformity. So I'm actually, I feel like I reached my goals in life.
That's great.
I can say I'm 50, so I should reach my goal in life now. And I'm very happy doing what I love to do.
That's awesome. And where do you see yourself going in 10 years, teaching more people, more courses?
So I really think education must be spread and people have to be helped. I don't know if you are familiar or not, but having scoliosis it's a disorder that can start as a juvenile.
Yeah.
And it goes with you for the rest of your life. It's not a meniscal injury. It's not a tear in the shoulder. It is a disorder that you try to correct it, you try to improve it, you try to hold progression, but it's not always helpful. So I forgot even what was the question.
I was saying, do you want to do more courses, more teaching?
Yeah. So teaching is very important to get more and more therapists to be on board. It's a continued education. You don't study that during the formal physical therapy. And even doctors, MDs, are not familiar with what a scoliosis-specific exercise entail and mean. So you gotta spread the words on these specific exercises.
That's awesome. And so tell us about how you probably, been around for quite a bit in the industry, right? Because of all the experience. And tell us more, when you first started, how did you grow your practice? How did you first get your clients, et cetera, And then today, right? What is your knowledge now in terms of growing your practice? And if you could do things differently, what would you have done?
I think the best is always to connect as a beginner, to those in the field that have for us as physical therapists, is to connect to doctors. And who are the doctors? Those who specializing in scoliosis are surgeons, orthopedic specialist surgeons. And within your area, I was very lucky to work at the hospital for special surgery to begin with, and then at Columbia University Medical Center until less than a year ago. And working with the doctors as a team help you to get, this is how I really started to get my clients. First, I worked at the hospital. And then as I felt, okay, I am really, I'm comfortable, I'm getting referrals, I think that I can go on my own and develop. When you work on your own, you're responsible. You're responsible to what you're doing. You're responsible to get your clients. The work is a little bit different. I don't know. Working for yourself, and then the connection with the doctors just stayed. They knew that I'm in the city. They knew that I'm teaching others. I hate to. It's not. I don't like to talk about myself, but
this is an interview. This is going to be all about you.
By education and by doing good education to the public and working with patients that go back to the doctors and tell them, you know, this really helps me. What does it help me? It helps to reduce the pain. It helps for me to stand straight, upright. Mainly it's about adults with pain and discomfort, disability, and the young age to stop progression. Then you get more and more clients from the same doctors.
How did you make those initial? So it sounds like you were working in the hospital, right?
Right.
And that's so natural, right? So would you recommend doctors out there who are just starting or just out of school, don't go start your practice right away. Instead, go figure out how to work for other doctors that can give you referrals? Or how would you make those initial relationships, right? Because it sounds like those relationships really give you a lot of
Very
value.
important. Right. You know what? It's a dilemma. I don't think there is the right answer. I don't think there is a right answer. And maybe it also depends on your specialty. If it's a very small niche, then and this is something that you choose. In general, Vlad, it doesn't, you don't start like that when you're out of school. So you generally start as a orthopedic. If you like outpatient, you do orthopedics.
Yeah.
And then should you start in a private setup rather than a hospital? You know what? I don't know if I don't know if anyone can answer that. It's your personality.
I know some people that have done it successfully because while they're in school, they're working in the field a little bit. So I'll say this for the audience out there. Shout out to Dr. Shreya Soni, by the way. What she did is, and we're doing an event together, is she simply started a meetup, right? And it was basically get partners for the doctors that are complementary, and she did an event. And I think that's probably one of the easiest ways, you can do that. If you're first starting out, is you start a meetup, go to meetup.com, create an account, and that's obviously nothing beats having that relationship already built if you can work for somebody else, et cetera, and when you're young, you feel like you just know everything and, like I'm ready. But then like when you get older, you're like, man, I did not know anything and, et cetera. So if you could go back in time though, right, to when you first got out of school, would you have done anything differently to help your practice?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was super lucky. I think my whole path is just about being lucky. I was super lucky to work at a place, and this is something, if you like orthopedics, then go. If you're not interested, to start as a private and you want to give yourself, listen, also working in educational hospitals, high-level hospitals, there is no replacement to that. You will never get in private practice what a hospital can give you in terms of education, community, team support, ground rounds. You are, if you're just interested, the whole hospital is there to educate you. So I would wake up at 6:30 in the morning to go to surgeon ground round. I will stay till 6 in the evening to attend the attending grounds. I will go to radiology. You have the opportunities that you don't have it in a private practice at the beginning. So if
Yeah.
you want, I feel that my confidence, my specialty, my connection would never be the same if I didn't work at these places.
That's a solid point. You know, I feel like if I'm going to a private practice and they meant, like, we have Swedish over here, right? And if they mention, hey, I worked at Swedish hospital, then I'm like, that gives them extra credit and that gives them a certain level, right,
Right,
of credentials that makes me more
right.
confident as a potential patient. You know, however, if they specialize in something very rare or whatever, right, that's just one of those things. But I feel like, yeah, it must be a phenomenal experience having access to all the doctors of
Unbelievable.
hospitals, and they've
Right.
probably seen everything. And then did they just start giving you referrals off the bat once you left the hospital? How did that work?
I really built, I made effort to build a good relationship. And you can, depends on the place you work in a hospital, you can work privately after your hospital hours.
Mm-hmm.
So you can always work extra hours and support these ducts, because
Mm-hmm.
not every patient can come to the hospital at the times that you work.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and later on when I left, and still now, until yeah, they continue to send me. But now I'm, well, particularly myself, I build up my place in the world of scoliosis. Is I'm the chair of the education committee of the conservative management of scoliosis in the world.
Wow.
You
So you
can go to
definitely,
my website, you can read my
yeah.
bio, but
Well,
yeah, so I, now they know me. I'm sorry.
that's awesome. That's fantastic. So if a doctor listening out there says, okay, you know what, I've got my own practice, but I do want to get some hospital experience, etc., what do you suggest for them? Should they start volunteering? Should they reach out to their school connections? What's the best way to get into that hospital if you're already, you know, you got your degree or you have your degree and you have practice?
If you already have a practice,
Because I know
oh,
chiropractors that have watched the show that have 3 locations that say, hey, great show, da da da, right? But maybe they want, you know, to check out the hospital side, or physical therapists that have listened, et cetera. Like, I know multiple doctors that have, you
so
know.
I think shadowing, doing some hours. I take physical therapists from, well, let's say I take now, but I'm not working to a hospital, but I'm receiving. And I know the same way in hospitals, I have partners, those of 2 partners who used to work with me at Columbia. They still work at the Columbia Medical Center. And they take new physical therapists, new doctors, to shadow and view with them extra hours. So you can do that, and you can make the docs. You can ask certain orthopedic specialists to follow them the whole day, and then you make connection. As you follow them the whole day, you talk, you
I love
explain.
that. I would
Yeah,
love that, because even because I'm not a doctor, right? We have an agency, we work with doctors, and you know, we write our own software, stuff like that. But I would love to ask to shadow people, right? So
it's amazing.
how do you do that? Do you just cold call them? Is it just through the mutual friends? You say, hey, I'm looking for a doctor to shadow, and they say, oh, you know, I can introduce you to somebody that might help.
Right.
How did you tell us your story of how you shadow doctors?
It's really go all directions. So
Mm-hmm.
you can email them if you have their email. If you get their email from somebody who works in the hospital, in a hospital, um, yeah, you can ask your friends. And really, in educational, not all hospitals are educational hospitals, but those
Mm-hmm.
who are, the docs there are, I want to say they're not obligated, but they are very open to allow people. I send many of my therapists that I certified as scoliosis specialist therapist. I I give them the emails of the doctors that I work at the hospitals. They make connection, or I make the connection for them, and then they spend a day once a week for a month to learn the system, to learn how to evaluate. Yeah, and do. It's wonderful like that.
Very cool. And so,
Just be initiative, and don't be afraid, and sick,
Yeah.
sick more.
Yeah, I love that. Every no gets you closer to a yes, right? So it's like, I don't care. You got to have that mindset. Like, I don't care if I have to ask 100 doctors to job shadow, somebody's going to say yes. So
Right.
tell me more about your private practice. You stepped away from the hospital, you did that. And it sounds like it just started getting patients right away because you had all these relationships, right? How many years did you work at the hospital for, like 8 years or something, or?
I work for, yeah, I work, so I, I really worked full time at, at one place full time, I think 7 years.
Yep.
And then I started to divide part-time and part-time private. And
Yep.
you have to come to an agreement with the hospital that they will allow you to
Yep.
work part-time for them and part-time private. They need to know that you are, you get your private
Committed.
patient exactly from your own, you're not taking from them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have good relationship with the hospital. So then I started like that and I built my practice. I was afraid to leave, to take the leap of faith and to leave, meaning, yes, all by myself, to pay the insurance for myself and for my family. Hospital, gives you the benefits. And I really decided to take the leap of faith when my daughter was born, and I didn't want to work anymore full time. The hours the hospital gave you,
It's a lot of
I
hours,
wanted to
probably.
be responsible for my own hours and be with her whenever I want. I did it, and it's just amazing. You take the courage, but you need to have initiative. Write to doctors, make flyers, speak to, you have to be involved, make a good website,
Yep.
advertise, public relationship, Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah, I think the key part is you got to take, first of all, most people, they like to plan, but they don't like to do. So you got to plan, okay, I'm going to have whatever Instagram account, et cetera. Then you got to take initiative, you got to take the steps, and then you got to reflect what's working, what's not working, and those are the kind of the three-step process. Most people never plan, right? Or to do these things. But once they do plan, most don't do initiative. But once they do initiatives, they don't get better. And it sounds like you've done all three. Now, what challenges have you faced in terms of COVID? Obviously, a lot of doctors out there, they've been impacted. What advice would you give to them to, bounce back stronger? How has it impacted you, and how have you overcome the situation?
So this is from, I think there are many people who will say the same thing. For me, it was, Vlad, incredible experience.
Mm-hmm.
Experience that led to many aspects of therapy. People always ask me, how you, when you need to correct the body, I don't just give exercise. Scoliosis is you need to be hands-on and open collapses and work. How can you do it without your hands? And I'm very hands-on when I can be hands-on. And I found out that it is a beautiful, different, but effective experience to work with people via Zoom. And instead of being, when you open the eye of the camera, on one, and you are very close only to one part of the body, and sometimes you miss the whole because you are with your eyes at the palm of the hand, but you miss the head and the legs. Now with the view of Zoom, and you teach your patient how to set the camera, I can see everything, every rib that they breathe, and the big toe that raised up, and the head that is not tucked or in good position, and the fingers. But you have to be sensitive enough. You have to be experienced enough. I can work perfectly via Zoom, and I actually love it.
That's
Love it.
fantastic.
Another level of loving it is that patients become independent, and they are seeking, because they don't want to go. They take more responsibility now. They become compliance. The compliance rate, which is usually very low with physical therapy, people like to go to be manipulated or moved, but when they go home, they forget about, like us, people don't exercise by themselves, few of us. So compliance raised, I get a lot of referrals non-stop still, never stopped.
What would you, so it sounds like coronavirus did not impact you that hard. Like it just really, you had to say, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to do this. What would your
Right.
tips be to the doctors out there, like the dermatologists or something, that see people in person, or the physical therapists? It's probably harder for physical therapists, right? Out there. What would your tips be for them? Or the chiropractors probably got hit hard, or the doctors, I guess, that just went through that tough time to turn it around. Is there any advice for them?
Listen, I don't think I cannot advise to other professionals because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what is the demand of a dermatologist. They do need to do something on the skin. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Physical therapy, the beauty of physical therapy, really, it's about the musculoskeletal system, and people can help themselves. And truly, physical therapists, docs, or chiropractors. That's the difference, Vlad, between chiropractor and physical therapist. Chiropractors at the beginning, now maybe they changed their practice, but chiropractors are really to manipulate the body. How can you do it without their hand? Physical therapists, their goal is one of their major goals is education for self practice and improvement, empower patients to be able to treat, okay? Some things you need as a therapist, but many things people can do themselves. They just need to know the right posture, the right position, the alignment, and this is not a big deal. Not everyone is capable of listening and performing with me, but the majority, surprisingly, nowadays can do it
I
via.
like that, and it goes back to another episode I had where I talked to the doctor, and what she said was, it's not, don't think of yourself as, hey, this is what I do, but think of yourself as, hey, this is the problem I solve, and look at solving that problem for your patient. And that's how you could change and pivot your practice if needed during, COVID. And we are starting obviously to slowly bounce back and everything. So great job. You made it through. If a doctor was listening out there, right, if you could give them any advice, what would you like to instill in them to help them grow or improve their practice from today? What do you feel like most practices are kind of missing when you talk to other doctors in the field?
I don't know if I don't know if missing, but I find that what made me and still making me better is searching, teaching / educating, really searching by myself non-stop, literature, and viewing other YouTubes and other people teaching, participating, non-stop, really non-stop educating yourself. Take another course, another seminar, another continuing education. Maybe it have nothing to do with what you ask in terms of practical, but to get better, is about that. And then teach others. Take
Yeah, I like
students.
that. So it's like you're constantly learning and teaching, right? And that's huge, I
Correct.
think, in the world. And
You
we can make it
cannot,
more tactical as
right.
well, actually, right? So let's make that tactical. So do you read like a book a week, or do you take one course a month? Or is there any course you think people should check out that really helped you?
I teach a lot of courses, but I take from my masters. I take specific into my field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I read a lot of articles, not so much
Mm-hmm.
books about, but articles, new articles that come all the time,
And
randomized
how
control
often? Like
trial.
once, do you read 2 to 3 articles a day?
No, once a week, maybe. Once a
Once a
week.
week you read an article. So
Not
that's
every day,
very
yeah.
tactical, right? So for the audience, for the doctors listening out there, right, you should at least be reading an article a week. I think that's very, very
Right.
practical, right, on your field about the latest and greatest. And I think that'll help inspire, and then you can teach that stuff to your patients about what you just read, and that'll be like, wow,
Always.
the doctor I'm dealing with, like, they're at the top of their game, when they're teaching us about the field. So I think
Right.
that's awesome.
And talk
And
about it. Bring it to the patient. Ask them, tell them. When they search for other doctors, make sure that there is an evidence for the practice they're doing.
I like that. I really do. So then, I think that really tells me a lot about you. It sounds like you're constantly on the top of the field and at the forefront. And, you did it though. Thank you so much. You
I
made
hope
it through
so.
the interview. So plug it up. Tell us more about, any books, what courses should we check out? Your social media, where can we contact you?
So first of all, my website is Schroth. Schroth is a German woman who invented the method for the scoliosis treatment.
Wow.
SchrothNYC.com. Or you can follow me on Facebook. I post a lot of my workout and exercise routine for children and elderlies with scoliosis. So Facebook under my name, Hagit Berdishevsky.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's long, but Hagit Berdishevsky.
But it's worth it.
Yeah. So I think Facebook and my website, and then from the website you can connect with me. Anything you
Awesome.
need.
Well, thank you so much. And guys, if you have any other questions, always feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help you grow and improve here at Vital Doc Talk, and have a wonderful day.